I want to be a stand-up comedian.
48. 10 years ago, I had a midlife crisis, and then I saw the ads for Unlock Your Potential. Russell Peters is the mentor that I chose, and also he picked me.
My husband, he said he was gonna be here, but he's not here. That's great news for me. I mean, I would love to keep my job as a housewife.
I have a big goal of going to Madison Square Garden.
Sophia is a champion. She's going to make sure that you feel proud of whatever it is you accomplished.
And Sarah is with us now. Sarah, this is incredible. Tell us what it was like first getting dialed in with her community.
You know, normally it can be overwhelming when you're in a room and, you know, someone's the head of this or the, you know, a world-renowned author or a director. But when you walk in that room, it's like we're all 15 again, maybe a smarter 15. And everyone wants to know what everyone else is doing, what they're up to, but mostly, how are you feeling? Like, how are you doing, girl? You really feel embraced when you walk in that door. And she does it with people from all different areas, from all different walks of life. It is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and Sarah, one of the things that you and I have talked about many times, and I should know, she is the pride of Hialeah, Miami Lakes, Florida, just to shout out, as always, whenever I see you on the air, is how much personality you bring when you're on the air. And it struck me that you were talking about feeling intimidated by becoming an anchor and fitting into a corporate box that often doesn't handle outsized personalities.
It's still hard. It's still hard. But I think one of those things that I really learned about myself, and also something that Sophia really champions, is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's how growth happens. And so that is one of the things that she's like, how you feeling, girl? If you're uncomfortable, you can push past that. You can learn. Look at this. I mean, this is her. She is a master at Kung Fu, and it is incredible, all of the different things she does. But the thing that I love she does most is bring us together and make us see the world in the best possible light.
And I gotta say, that watermelon salad.
The dinner's
while we were talking about it, it was on the screen. Sarah Seidner, always great to see you, my friend. A pleasure.
Good to see you, too.
Of course. Hey, be sure to tune in Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern for the Champions for Change 1 hour special. And of course, stay here with CNN News Central. We've got much more news to get to right after a quick break.
Champions for Change is presented by Charles Schwab. Follow the stories of inspiring individuals who have spent their lives making a difference. Go to CNN.com/champions to learn more about these brave individuals as they redefine their personal destinies and lift up society along the way.
My name is Daniel Rudin. I've been at Charles Schwab for 12 years. I was very fortunate coming out of the military, and I was able to establish a career. It's not that easy for everyone. Right out of high school, I signed up to join the Marine Corps. It's a relief for some when you first get home, but it's also makes you think a lot. The veteran homeless population grows year after year, and now it's the opportunity is what can I do for all my brothers and sisters that still serve to this day. Soldiers Angels provide aid to anybody deployed. They really appreciate it, and that's where you really see the value of this mission.
So first of all, we want to recognize Charles Schwab for their partnership in this new distribution.
All right, let's do this!
My philosophy is try to be the hero of somebody's day. So to me, really personally, Own Your Tomorrow is those powerful moments that you can create with somebody, and you can see it in their eyes or their smile. It's making a difference.
My asthma felt anything but normal. It was time for a new normal with Nucala. Nucala is a once-monthly add-on treatment for severe eosinophilic asthma that can mean less oral steroids, not for sudden breathing problems. Allergic reactions can occur. Get help right away for swelling of face, mouth, tongue, or trouble breathing. Infections that can cause shingles have occurred. Don't stop steroids unless told by your doctor. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. May cause headache, injection site reactions, back pain, and fatigue. Ask your asthma specialist about a new normal with Nucala.
Hi, we've both got a big birthday coming up, so we have a lot of questions about Medicare plans.
We've got a lot of answers. How can I help?
Well, for starters, do you include hearing benefits?
How about a plan with dental, vision, and hearing benefits?
I sure like the sound of that.
Then how does a $0 monthly plan premium sound?
If you're new to Medicare, call 1-888-65-AETNA.
We'll walk you through all your coverage and benefit options to help find the right plan for you.
RSV can severely affect the lungs and lower airways.
But I'm protected with Arexvy.
Arexvy is a vaccine used to prevent lower respiratory disease from RSV in people 60 years and older. RSV can be serious for those over 60, including those with asthma, diabetes, COPD, and certain other conditions.
But I'm protected.
Arexvy is proven to be over 82% effective in preventing lower respiratory disease from RSV and over 94% effective in those with these health conditions. Arexvy does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients. Those with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most common side effects are injection site pain, fatigue, muscle pain, headache, and joint pain.
I chose Arexvy.
RSV, make it Arexvy.
Dumb Money is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's hilarious and wildly entertaining. Makes you want to stand up and cheer.
How much did we make today?
5 million.
How much did we raise today?
$1 billion.
Dumb Money. Select theaters nationwide Thursday. Everywhere September 29. Rated R.
Wherever you go, wherever you stay, all you need is one key. Earn and use rewards across Expedia, Hotels.com, and Vrbo.
Tina used to worry about bad breath. Now,
Swishy time.
she uses TheraBreath mouthwash for 12 hours of fresh breath.
And it's non-burning, unlike our outfit, which is fire.
Try TheraBreath mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash.
Every day, more dog people and more vets are deciding it's time for a fresh approach to pet food. They're quitting the kibble and kicking the cans and feeding their dogs dog food that's actually, well, food. Developed with vets, made from real meat and veggies, portioned for your dog, and delivered right to your door. It's smarter, healthier pet food. Get 50% off your first box at thefarmersdog.com/realfood.
There's a new migrant surge at the southern border, and the impact is not just being felt there. Several states saying they are overwhelmed, and it's driving a big wedge between some Democratic leaders and the White House.
And Republican tensions hit new heights. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy accusing hardliners in his own party of wanting to burn the place down as they deal him another blow in his fight to prevent a government shutdown. And hope in Hollywood, key talks really at a make-or-break moment between big studios and writers. We are following these major developing stories and many more, all coming in right here to CNN News Central.
President Biden is now responding to growing pressure at the border as a new surge is underway. CNN has just learned there were 8,600 arrests in the last 24 hours throughout the southwest portion. Now, President Biden is sending another 800 troops to that region as he also addresses concerns miles to the north. New York state officials have been pleading for his help, saying their facilities are overwhelmed with asylum seekers. In response, the president is opening up work permits to hundreds of thousands more migrants. We begin the hour in Eagle Pass, Texas. The border town declared a state of emergency because of the surge. CNN's Ed Lavandera is there not far from the river. And Ed, take us there. What's going on behind you?
Well, this scene continues to unfold here in Eagle Pass. The group of people, this large group, at least 100 people or so, just moments ago crossed underneath all of this concertina wire and have turned themselves into authorities. And this is what you're seeing unfold now. And this is the process that is starting to change a little bit, because now the mayor here in Eagle Pass just told me a little while ago that he has signed an affidavit, a partnership, if you will, with state authorities to arrest people who cross illegally into the U.S. onto private property. So all of these migrants that you see behind me are now going to be, from what we understand at this moment, processed and arrested on trespassing charges by state authorities. And what we've been told by federal and state officials here in the last 30 minutes or so is that they're separating the migrants into groups of single men and single women who will be arrested on the state charges. That's all of these people that you see behind me. Many of these migrants that I've spoken with say they're from Venezuela in this large group. If you look just beyond here where these troopers are standing, that's where the family groups have been taken. They're being taken over to Border Patrol processing. So they're being separated at this point. This has been a bit of a controversial and contentious issue in terms of arresting migrants on these trespassing charges, but that is once again beginning to unfold here on the banks of the river. Many of these people and these migrants, I've been speaking with them and asking them why they're choosing to cross this way, given the stiffer penalties for people who cross illegally. And they say that to a person, all of them, Boris, have been telling us that they have been waiting for months and months to get through the legal channel of applying through what is known as the CBP-1 app and requesting an appointment to make and present their asylum case. And many of these people say they've been waiting for months and months on the Mexican side, and they're simply tired of waiting at this point. And that's why they've chosen to cross over in these large groups that we've been seeing unfold here in Eagle Pass over the last few days. The sheriff told us it was about 3,000 migrants that crossed over yesterday, some 2,700 the day before. I'm not sure if we'll reach those numbers again today, but there are clearly large numbers of migrants here once again crossing the river into Eagle Pass once again. And officials here say they're simply overwhelmed in trying to handle all of these people arriving here in this small border town. Boris?
So Ed, walk us through what the process is like after this. Where do many of these migrants wind up going?
Well, the ones you see behind me, Boris, these are, from what we've been told, and exactly how this is going to play out in the next couple of hours isn't exactly clear, but the best we can tell at this point, these people will be processed. They will be facing the state trespassing charges, so they will be essentially put through traditional U.S. and Texas court system. That has, as I've mentioned, been very controversial over the last few months. And then those other family units are you see it over there sitting behind that car beyond where the troopers are. Those folks will be turned over to Border Patrol and processed as well. So it will take days and days for many of these people either to be deported or released from custody. It is not exactly clear where eventually these people will end up, but for the time being, they will be processed through the various state and federal systems here. And where they end up, if they end up getting the paperwork they need to be able to present their asylum case in the U.S., it will take some days to really kind of get a clear answer as to where exactly all of these people will end up.
Ed Lavandera, live from Eagle Pass, Texas. Thank you so much, Ed. Let's turn now to CNN's Priscilla Alvarez, who's in Washington for us. So, Priscilla, walk us through this expansion of work permits and what the Biden administration is trying to accomplish with the expansion.
Boris, picking up there on your conversation with Ed, a lot of Venezuelans go into the United States as they go through their immigration court proceedings, many of them seeking asylum from a country that has been undergoing political and economic turmoil. And many of them went to the state of New York. And over the last few weeks, we've been covering those tensions between New York City Mayor Eric Adams and the White House over work permits and making sure that these people can work as, again, they go through their immigration court proceedings. And that was the big announcement yesterday evening, which is that the White House is expanding what's called as temporary protected status to make 472,000 Venezuelans already in the United States eligible for these work permits, as well as giving them deportation protections. This is significant. This is the largest expansion of this status that we have seen to date, and it is indicative of the challenges this administration faces with this particular population. Given the frosty relations between the United States and Venezuela, it is very hard for the U.S. to deport people back to Venezuela. And that's exactly the population we're seeing the most of along the U.S. southern border. And so by now allowing some of those who are already here the potential to work, it can at least start to relieve some of the pressures in some of these northeastern cities and interior cities elsewhere in the United States. But to be clear, Boris, this only applies to those who were residing in the U.S. on or before July 31st. Those people that you saw crossing there behind Ed would not be eligible for this status.
Priscilla Alvarez, thank you so much for the details. Brianna?
Now to Washington, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pleading for more help in the face of more deadly Russian strikes. Here in about an hour, he will be meeting with President Biden at the White House, but this morning he was meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. It's a much different place for him than it was the last time that he visited in March of last year. This time, Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives. The Speaker is skeptical of sending more aid to Kyiv, and some GOP hardliners are willing to shut down Washington over it. Let's get to CNN White House correspondent Jeremy Diamond. Jeremy, Zelensky has a much more receptive audience in President Biden than he just had with Speaker McCarthy for sure. What are we expecting to come out of their meeting now?
Well, we're expecting President Biden to announce a fresh package of military aid for Ukraine using that drawdown authority that he has used time and again to provide Ukraine with additional weaponry and financial military support. This latest package, we're told, will include air defense capabilities as well as artillery, anti-armor, and anti-aircraft capabilities. It will not, however, include those ATACMS, those long-range missile systems that the Ukrainian president has been asking Washington for. And that is despite those requests from President Zelensky and Zelensky's impassioned pleas to Washington for that very system. That being said, the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that President Biden ultimately decided not to provide those systems at this very moment after assessing Ukraine's battlefield needs as well as the United States' own needs for its defense. But he did make clear that this system is not off the table, and we have seen, Brianna, time and again the Biden administration saying no initially to certain requests from the Ukrainians for specific military hardware, and then ultimately acceding to those demands later down the road. This moment, though, this meeting between President Zelensky and President Biden comes at really a critical moment, not only on the battlefield in Ukraine as Ukraine continues to push its counteroffensive to try and retake territory that Russia took during its invasion last year, but it also comes at a critical moment here in Washington. The Biden administration has asked for $24 billion of additional financial support for Ukraine from Congress. But Zelensky is coming to Washington now at a moment that is very different from the one a very different backdrop than the one he faced when he was here last December. And that is in particular because Republicans are in charge of the House, and we have seen this skepticism from Kevin McCarthy and a number of House Republicans about providing additional aid. Despite that, the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan expressed optimism that Congress will indeed appropriate those funds. We will see exactly how that happens, because for now it seems like an uphill battle that both the President and President Zelensky are facing together. Brianna?
Certainly does. Jeremy Diamond, thank you so much for that report. Let's go down the road now, up the road to Capitol Hill, where CNN's Mani Raju is. Mani, we've heard Republicans today, Senator Mitch McConnell echoing Biden's case for backing Ukraine. Of course, this is an uphill battle, as we just heard Jeremy describe. How do they get to that point they need to in order to fully fund Ukraine as they want?
Yeah, that's a major question here on Capitol Hill. Uncertainty about that $24 billion aid package, despite the plea from President Zelensky behind closed doors, meeting with senators today. I'm told from attendees in the room that what Zelensky said, he said, quote, "You give money, we give lives." That was one of the messages that he said. He also said that if the money dries up from the United States, it could have a cascading effect. European countries could follow suit, and he warned that Ukraine could fall to Russia if the U.S. backs away. All coming as a major debate is playing on the Hill about whether to provide that money this month as part of a bill to keep the government open by October 1st. No final decision had been made about how they will deal with that, but that is a debate, particularly happening on the Republican side of the aisle. There is a large number of support among Senate Republicans. There's a large number of opposition among House Republicans, but there are a faction of Senate Republicans, like Senator Josh Hawley, one who is sharply critical about providing more aid to Ukraine, arguing that it is not in the U.S. interest.
Oh, they're totally wrong. How about this and so many other things? But listen, I mean, they're wrong. Number one, we've spent $115 billion on Ukraine. What I heard last night from the administration is that may be just the very, and not only maybe, it is just the very beginning, Mono. They want 25 more billion now. They're going to ask for more later. There's no end in sight. We were told this could literally go on for years. It's another forever war.
Quite honestly, I don't believe you can convince Josh Hawley to change his opinion, so why waste the time? Go focus on the vast majority of the members who are prepared to support it, and let's see what we can get on the House side.
And the House side is the major question at the moment because Speaker McCarthy decided not to have any public photo op with Vladimir Zelensky today. In fact, he was only seen behind closed doors. Pictures that were obtained by our colleague CNN's Annie Blair got pictures of them behind closed doors. They didn't have a public meeting. He also denied a joint meeting of Congress for Zelensky to speak to, unlike what he did in the Democratic-controlled Congress, all raising major questions here, Brianna, about exactly how the Speaker will deal with this. He has made no guarantees that he will move forward on this aid package, certainly not as part of a bill to keep the government open, but will he do it later in the fall? He simply will not say, as he faces pressure on his right flank not to move ahead. Brianna?
It's a really interesting moment that just shows the shift in the Republican Party when you think of how they hearken so much back to Reaganism, and you know what his role was when it came to Russia and Gorbachev, and now you have McCarthy, who will not even publicly be seen with Zelensky. It's really, really stunning. Mani Raji live for us on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much, Boris. And also be sure, I should say, to catch Mani's debut, the big debut. He is hosting the Sunday edition of Inside Politics. That is this Sunday at 11 a.m. We will not be missing it, Boris.
You should tune in for that. Manu is most likely going to be talking about the other big story on Capitol Hill that's unfolding. There are just 9 days left to avoid a potential government shutdown. And the roadblocks for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are ample. Just a short time ago, his own party blocked efforts to pass a defense spending rule highlighting fractures that could cost McCarthy his position as Speaker. Earlier this morning, he vented his frustrations in front of reporters. Listen to the way he describes members of his own party.
It's frustrating in the sense that I don't understand why anybody votes against bringing the idea and having the debate. And then you got all the amendments if you don't like the bill. This is a whole new concept of individuals that just want to burn the whole place down. It doesn't work. I know it's an obstacle, but I find it as a challenge, and we're going to solve it.
So if they couldn't pass this rule for a defense spending bill, what does it mean for the potential for a government shutdown? Let's ask CNN's Melanie Zanona, who's live for us on Capitol Hill. Melanie?
Yeah, well, it's back to the drawing board once again for House Republicans as they struggle to govern. As of right now, Kevin McCarthy is huddled in his office with all the chairmen of his spending committees as they try to figure out a path forward on funding bills. And one of the things being discussed is making some changes to that defense bill that went down on the floor a little bit ago. One of the ideas being discussed is cutting Ukraine assistance from that bill. It includes $300 million for the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, but that is money that has been allocated to Ukraine since 2014. It is different than the $24 billion aid package that hardliners are also opposed to. But even though that might win over some of the hardline critics, it's unclear if the rest of the party would go along with that. A number of defense hawks and moderates and appropriators are very still supportive of Ukraine money, and especially on the day that Zelensky came and visited the Hill pleading for more resources. But I think more broadly here, there is serious concerns and doubts about whether House Republicans are going to be able to pass a broader bill to avoid a government shutdown in 9 days from now. Even though the House GOP came up with a plan and they loaded it up with conservative goodies to try to get the right flank on board, there are still a number of hardliners who are opposed, and they don't have the votes at this moment to proceed ahead with that bill to avoid a government shutdown. And it's created a lot of frustration and tension inside the ranks. Just take a listen to Mike Lawler, who represents a Biden-won swing district in New York.
I think you have a handful of people who are choosing to be obstinate for one reason or another, some of it personal. The vast majority of Republicans are here to do our jobs and to govern. And we'll get there. You know, we have to bring them kicking and screaming, but we'll get there.
So Kevin McCarthy has a choice here, whether he's going to keep catering to his right flank, which could be a dead end because that wouldn't avoid a shutdown with the Senate, or he can try to work with Democrats, but that could put his speakership at risk. So not clear how they're going to get out of this mess with just days to go before the government funding deadline, Boris.
Yeah, Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida describing any potential cooperation between Speaker McCarthy and Democrats as a, quote, political death warrant. So we'll see what the Speaker decides to do. Melanie Zanona from Capitol Hill, thanks so much. Brown?
Well, we are just one day away from another deadline for a deal between the big three automakers and the union to avoid more walkouts. I'll be speaking to the president of an Ohio chapter about negotiations next. In the meantime, striking Hollywood writers and big studios could be nearing a deal. There is a critical meeting underway today. We'll have the latest on that. Plus, we're following a major shift in the media industry. Rupert Murdoch announcing he's stepping down as chairman of Fox Corporation. You're watching CNN News Central. We'll be right back.
Think hairspray stuck in one dimension? Think again. Flex any style. With hairspray that flexes with you. New Tresemme hairspray.
Only United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plans come with a U-Card. One simple member card that opens doors for what matters.
How about using it at the pharmacy?
Yes, your U-Card is all you need.
That's easy.
The all-in-one U-Card, only from United Healthcare.
Bye-bye cough. Later chest congestion. Hello, 12 hours of relief.
12 hours? Not coughing? Hashtag still not coughing?
Mucin XDM gives you 12 hours of relief from chest congestion in any type of cough, day or night. Mucin XDM. It's comeback season.
At Morgan Stanley, old school hard work meets bold new thinking. At 88 years old, we still see the world with the wonder of new eyes, helping you discover untapped possibilities, and relentlessly working with you to make them real. Old school grit, new world ideas, Morgan Stanley.
Works hard at hour one and twice as hard when you take it again the next day. So Betty can be the barcode beat conductor. Let's be more than our allergies. And for fast allergy relief with a powerful decongestant, try Zyrtec D.
If we want a more viable future for our kids, we need to find more sustainable ways of doing things. America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars in new technologies and creating plastic products that are more recyclable, durable, and dependable. Our goal is a cleaner, healthier planet for generations to come. For a better tomorrow, we're focused on making plastics better today.
With Flonase, allergies don't have to be scary. Spray Flonase Sensimus daily for non-drowsy, long-lasting relief in a scent-free gentle mist. Flonase, all good. Also, try our allergy headache and nighttime pills.
MLB chooses T-Mobile for Business for 5G solutions to not only enhance the fan experience, but to advance how the game is played. Now's the time to see what America's largest 5G network can do for your business.
You like that bone? I got a great price on it.
Did you see my tail when that Chewy box showed up?
Oh, I saw it.
Sorry about the vase.
Can we just say vase like normal people?
Fine.
I always wonder what it would be like to have a tail.
Maybe you did one time. Maybe 1,000 years from now, I'll be tailless using that Chewy app to get you great prices on treats.
I'm pretty sure it takes more than 1,000 years.
Vase.
Pets aren't just pets. They're more.
Vase.
Save more on what they love with everyday great prices at Chewy.
That looks really high.
It is high.
Whenever you're ready. Are there any sticks? No? You sure?
Here we go.
It's time to push your limits.
You're doing great.
Oh, is that a buffalo?
Yeah, that's a cow.
The all-new Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. Adventure on the edge.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
The nation's big three automakers are facing increasing pressure under the threat of a union strike expanding. The United Auto Workers expected to call for more walkouts at noon tomorrow if there's not significant progress on a new contract. And so far, you have workers who are striking at just 3 factories, one for each automaker. Nearly 13,000 union workers are striking at those plants. Another 2,700 workers have been temporarily laid off at other facilities. That includes 68 Stellantis employees at the Toledo machining plant in Perrysburg, Ohio. Joining me now, we have Tony Toddy. He is the president of UAW Local 14, which is in Toledo. Tony, thanks for being with us again. We do appreciate it. There is, I think, thinking that this is going to be very tough to meet this noon deadline tomorrow. Is this looking like you're in for a bigger, longer, more painful strike, and are union members ready for that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I just left the strike line over at the Jeep facility, and spirits are high. Hopefully, we can get a breakthrough. President Fain didn't say that we had to have a deal by tomorrow. He just said that we need improvements at the table by tomorrow. So hopefully the corporations can see it's in nobody's best interest to expand this or extend it. The quicker that we can come to a resolution is the quicker that we could get back to making quality products.
Tony, these union workers who are striking, they're getting $100 a day of strike pay, right? How is that enough over the long haul?
Well, nobody's missed a check yet, right? And it's $500 a week. Nobody can live off that. We're not professional strikers. We're professionals at what we do, and that's build quality products for the consumers. The thing that we're having an issue with is you have members working side by side, one making $15 an hour and the other one making 32, and that goes years on end, especially at Stellantis, and that's just not right. When you look at CEO compensation, our CEO at General Motors, Mary Barra, makes $29 million a year. Now that's 362 times the average worker, but when you look at the temporary worker that they're really exploiting, that's over 600 times what they're making. So that's really what's at hand here, and until they come up with a better solution to that problem, we're going to stay out as long as it takes.
Yesterday, GM idled about 2,000 employees at a plant in Kansas where they've been affected actually by the factories that are striking. So you're seeing this ripple effect from the targeted strikes. Were you expecting that?
Yeah, it's a trickle down. I mean, we produce transmissions at our facility, and we provide the transmissions for Wentzville. And that same facility that caused Fairfax to go down will, impact our schedules. And it's only a matter of time when, that facility was taking 500 to 600 transmissions a day. And with us still producing transmissions, at some point, that's going to impact us as well.
Would it be sufficient enough to members of the UAW to see a sizable increase in hourly pay without having the automakers get back into the business of health care and pensions?
You're talking about for our retirees. All these things are what they're dealing with at the table. It's not just the wages. Our contract is broken ever since the restructuring in 2009. And that's the two-tier whole system that, we gave up during the hard times, and we knew that was going to be a thing. And even the corporation at the time said, when we get to a better time, we'll adjust this. Well, we're at that better time. Year after year of record profits. They're making record compensation. The stockholders are getting the buybacks to take care of them. And when it turns to us, they say, oh, well, we can't afford that. Well, yeah, you can, because you're a publicly traded company, and we get to see what your profitability is. So I understand everybody's looking to say, well, how much is good enough for you? And we leave that to our negotiators at the table. But it'd be nice if the corporations get real and understand that this is just an adjustment that they need to make to be right by their people that make them these profits.
Do you have concerns that doing some of that might end up with the automakers right back where they were, leading to the bankruptcies that we saw?
Right, and I understand that, and we care about that as well. We don't want to kill our jobs, and we know that would lead to that. But these corporations, when you look at Stellantis, $12 billion a year in the first 6 months alone in profit. General Motors, $12 billion last year, and on pace for that again. They can afford it. Now, we don't want to put them back there, but what also got us into that situation was the housing market credit crunch that sunk the industry, as well as the corporations were doing a pretty bad job of running their business. They shed a lot of brands, and we're just in a healthier place. We don't want to kill the companies. We know that their longevity is to our benefit. We don't want to jeopardize that. But we deserve a raise. We deserve some of these things back that we gave up.
Tony Toddy, thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Boris?
Still to come, that other strike we're following. Are Hollywood writers about to get the happy ending they've been pushing for? The latest on negotiations with big studios when we come back.
ArcuReef is a climate technology company that specializes in restoring coral reefs. We pioneered a technology called reef tiles, which are 50 centimeter hexagons, 3D printed in terracotta clay that are then placed in the seabed and serve as a home for corals to grow on. Abu Dhabi is the perfect location to come to because there is a strong appetite for environmental solutions. There is a willingness here to drive pioneering projects.
When you shop Wayfair, you get big deals for your home every day. So big, we'll have you saying,
Am I a big deal?
yeah, you are, because it's a big deal when you get a big deal. Wayfair deals so big that you might get a big head. Because with savings so real, you can get your dream sofa for half the price. Wayfair, it's always a big deal. Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
We know you care. But if this is all too real for you and your loved ones, make the call. Because we care too. Home instead. To us, it's personal.
Tourists. Tourists that turn into scientists. Tourists photographing thousands of miles of remote coral reefs that can be analyzed by AI in real time. So researchers can identify which areas are at risk and help life underwater flourish. My A1C was up here. Now it's down with Rebelsis.
His A1C?
It's down with Rebelsis.
My doctor told me Rebelsis lowered A1C better than a leading-threaded pill.
And that people taking Rebelsis lost more weight. I got to my A1C goal and lost some weight too.
Rebelsis isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't take Rebelsis if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Rebelsis and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Rebelsis with a sulfonylurea or insulin increases low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems.
Need to get your A1C down?
You may pay as little as $10 per prescription.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure complete balanced nutrition with 27 vitamins and minerals, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein. We're here!
So how are we doing here?
On a family road trip with Jose Andres, you'll never be far from the best food in Spain.
We really are eating our way through Spain.
Jose Andres and Family in Spain premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
I wanna be where the people are. I wanna see them dancing.
You can't live in that world unless you become a human yourself.
I don't know.
Life's full of tough choices. Amen. You belong to me.
When things go sideways, will you be prepared? I want to introduce you to the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. Use the endless free power of the sun to power lights, your TV, medical equipment, even run your fridge. And that's without gas, fumes, or noise. Go to 4patriots.com. You'll get a solar panel included, free. Double the capacity, expandable for more power, and more outlets than ever. This is about peace of mind. Get your solar generator and free panel at 4patriots.com.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Now to the writer's strike and what may be a new glimmer of hope in Tinseltown. For the second straight day, striking writers are meeting with the heads of 4 major studios. A person familiar with yesterday's talks tells CNN that attendees left, quote, feeling encouraged. The standoff has now dragged on for more than 140 days, and the estimated costs are pushing towards $6 billion across multiple industries. Joining us now is Sarah Fisher. She's a CNN media analyst and senior media reporter for Axios. So, Sarah, these negotiations that are underway with the writers, obviously this could have a big impact on content that's produced, and it could mean something for the actors' strike as well.
Absolutely. If they can get this done, that means they can pivot their attention towards that other strike, the ongoing strike with the actors. But the thing to note is that today is a pivotal moment. The writers and the producers met for the first time yesterday in over a month as tensions were growing bigger. They restarted negotiations today. But if we don't get a deal soon, it's likely that this strike could go on towards maybe even the end of the year. And so if you think about what it's already done to fall TV production, pushing shows out to 2024, imagine if this goes all the way through the end of the year. You're talking about award shows potentially being pushed, more movies being pushed into later 2024. It would not only wreak havoc for a lot of these Hollywood companies, but for consumers who are waiting for new shows to hit their streaming services and to hit their linear TV networks.
So in terms of timing, if things play out really well in negotiations and the strike lifts, how soon can these workers, these writers and actors get back to production?
It's a good question, and it depends. Part of the reason why it depends is because you have the actor strike that's still ongoing. So for some scripted television, they can't get back to work right away until the actors can resume. But for things like late night shows or talk shows in the daytime that only require writers and no actors, they can probably get back to work right away. But again, the meeting was held this morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, so it should just be wrapping right now. We were supposed to get some insight by around 2 p.m., but there's no word yet on whether or not there's a deal.
Sarah, while we have you, I wanted to pivot to the other big media news, being that Rupert Murdoch, the chairman of Fox and News Corp, is stepping down or taking on a new role. He's now chairman emeritus. Do we anticipate that he's still going to have his fingerprints on conservative media the way he does now?
We do, and that's because he said that he will be, and quote, daily involved in both operations at Fox Corp and News Corp, even as he moves to this emeritus role. The other thing to keep in mind is that the person who will become the sole chair of both companies is his son Lachlan Murdoch, who tends to have the same worldview as Rupert. That's something that Rupert Murdoch espoused today in his note to staff. But the main big question actually becomes, what's the larger succession planning for Rupert Murdoch? Even though he steps back out of the chairman role, you know, he's a 92-year-old executive, and so I think there's a large looming question around what happens after he passes to his empire.
And just taking a step back, you have to appreciate just the amount of influence he's had, not only in cable news, across the media landscape, and in politics, too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Fox's support of Donald Trump was critical to the 2016 election, and you'll recall Fox being the first to call the election in favor of Joe Biden in 2020 had a huge implication on politics for the last 2 years. It's actually caused a huge rift between Donald Trump and the Murdoch family. The big picture here, though, is that Rupert Murdoch, a populist conservative, has owned a global empire of right-leaning outlets. You know, a lot of these hard news outlets, like the Wall Street Journal, for example, they do produce hard, you know, editorially straight news, but their opinion sections have been very influential for Republicans over the years. And so it'll be curious to see how this moves forward as he steps into a new role.
Sarah Fisher, always great to get your perspective. Thanks.
Thank you.
Of course.
Still to come on CNN News Central, a 96-year-old federal judge gets benched. We'll explain why just ahead.
October baseball, it just feels right. This is moment of truth. This one is gone. Makes the catch. Are you kidding me? October baseball on CBS.
Home of the National League Division and Championship Series.
It's Michael's lowest prices of the season sale. Shop this store-wide event for up to 70% off. Save on all fall floral and decor, all Halloween decor, and more. Get our best deals on thousands of items. Plus, save on all regular price purchases with coupons.
At Consumer Cellular, we offer amazing 5G coverage, backed up by incredible customer service.
But that wouldn't mean much without super low prices. You already know we're up to half as much as the largest carriers. But guess what? AARP members can save even more. Yahoo!
Switch to Consumer Cellular now and get unlimited talk and text with a flexible data plan starting at only $20 a month. For a limited time, switch and get your second month free.
Lysol is supporting schools by providing materials to teach healthy habits, so they can kill 99.9% of viruses and bacteria. Keeping kids together here, at places like the lunch table, where they can share who they truly are. Because when kids are together, they thrive. Lysol, here for healthy schools.
It's payback time. All these years you've worked hard, you fixed it, you looked after it. Maybe it's time for your home to start taking care of you.
If you're 62 or older and own your home, a reverse mortgage can put more money in your pocket by eliminating your monthly mortgage payments, paying off higher interest credit cards, and covering medical costs.
You paid down the mortgage, invested in your home. I guess you could say your home owes you.
Just eliminating the mortgage payment freed up a lot of cash for us.
The fact that we're still in this home means so much. I get to go and do what I want when I want.
Our customers' homes are taking care of them. Maybe your home could do the same for you.
Call AAG and get your free info kit. Call 800-206-0394. That's 800-206-0394. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because only the Sleep Number Climate 360 smart bed lets you each sleep up to 13 degrees cooler or warmer on either side, while you both sleep at your ideal level of firmness, comfort, and support, your Sleep Number setting. And now our all-new next-gen smart beds have temperature benefits, so you sleep better night after night. Save $400 on the new Sleep Number C4 smart bed, now only $14.99. Sleep next level. Shop now, only at Sleep Number.
Critics and audiences can't stop talking about Dumb Money Man. It's hilarious and wildly entertaining. The biggest surprise of the year. Dumb Money in select theaters nationwide Thursday, everywhere September 29. Rated R.
Subway refreshed everything, and now they're slicing their deli meats fresh. That's why the new Subway Series subs are preferred by this QB.
And preferred by his old backup QB.
And if we prefer it, we know you'll prefer it too. Have you been behind me this whole time?
Yep.
We're not writers, but we help you shape your financial story. We're not an airline, but our network connects global businesses across nearly 160 markets. We're not a startup, but our innovation labs use new technologies to help keep your information secure. We're not architects, but we help build stronger communities. We're not just any bank, we are Citi.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Audiobook Network. Authors tell your story. Produce an audiobook with us.
Want to earn more profits and find a new audience for your published book? Produce an audiobook. We handle narration, production, and digital distribution.
800-753-8559.
Just into CNN, we're following breaking news out of Orange County, New York, where there has been a deadly bus crash. We want to get to CNN's Polo Sandoval, who's been following the latest details. Polo, what are you hearing?
And Boris, we've reached out to multiple sources and also multiple officials, but at this point, based on what we have been able to confirm with New York State Police, this is a significant, at least a major bus crash that took place shortly after 1 p.m. And as a result, according to New York State Police, one person dead, multiple injuries, we are told, by state police. In fact, several of them having to have had to be air evacuated from the scene there. We are working to get you also some pictures, and in those images you will eventually be able to see a bus on its side in a heavily wooded area there just off of, it's about 60 miles northwest of New York City where this accident took place in Orange County, New York. And you were able to see, you will eventually be able to see that bus on its side there in that wooded area. Apparently careened into an embankment here as authorities are still at what is a very active scene. But again, based on this preliminary information directly from New York State Police, we now understand at least one person dead, multiple injuries, and still a very fluid scene that's unfolding there in Orange County after this major bus crash that took place shortly after 1 p.m. according to authorities. And just to wrap things up here, Boris, appears to be on Interstate 84. A portion of that is shut down near exit 15A. Back to you.
We're going to stay on top of this story and bring you all the latest details. Paul Sandoval, thanks so much for the update. Brianna?
The oldest judge in America has been barred from hearing any new cases over concerns that she can no longer do her job. Judge Polly Newman is 96 years old, and she was appointed to her position by President Ronald Reagan nearly 40 years ago. We have CNN senior Supreme Court analyst Joan Biskupic following this story. This is pretty unusual here. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's highly unusual, especially the way it's playing out so publicly. You know, we've had a lot of talk about age and competency of public officials. You know, senators in their 80s and 90s, presidential contenders age 80 and 77. And this is a judge who, as you say, is 96. And what happened yesterday is that the Judicial Council of the Federal Circuit, where she sits, issued an order that suspended her for a year. And what they said was that they had been investigating her, interviewing more than 20 people, looking at her emails, and found that she is not able to do the job. They point to evidence of memory loss, confusion, and here's one particular paragraph from the long report. With no rational reason other than frustration over her own confusion, Judge Newman has threatened to have staff arrested, forcibly removed from the building, and fired. She accused staff of trickery, deceit, acting as her adversary, stealing her computer, stealing her files, and depriving her of secretarial support. Now, this order yesterday, Brianna, specifically arose from Judge Newman's refusal to take some medical evaluations. I talked to her lawyer today who said, you know, it's okay that somebody wants to investigate a judge, but don't have it done within her own circuit. The Federal Circuit, which is right here in Washington, D.C., specializes in patent cases. It's one of about a dozen U.S. appellate courts right below the Supreme Court. Its appeals all go up to the U.S. Supreme Court, a very powerful court. And what her lawyer said was, you know, do this the proper ways with due process of law, send it to another circuit. So Judge Newman is going to seek a broader review of yesterday's order from a larger judicial conference that's made up of judges from throughout the country. And also there's a case pending in federal district court as she seeks to be restored to her duties on the federal circuit.
Sounds like they're describing some paranoid behavior and maybe some behavior that is actually out of character for her.
Right, and it's tough. You know, look, she's 96, so there would naturally, we can presume there might be some age issues, but what she is saying herself and through her lawyers is that she's still competent to do the job, and if she's not, it should not be assessed by her colleagues who are serving as the complainers, the judge and jury, and it should be done outside of the circuit.
All right, we'll keep looking at this. It's very interesting. Joan Biskupic, thank you.
Thank you.
Boris?
We just got new information about the breaking news we brought to you a moment ago. The deadly bus crash in Orange County, New York. We're looking at live photos right now of what looks like a bus that careened off the side of the road and wound up in a wooded area. We've got CNN's Paul Sandoval back with us. Paul, there are also new details about who was on board the bus. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Boris, as we look at these images from our affiliate WABC, we can confirm, according to authorities, that bus was carrying students from Farmingdale High School on Long Island. They were headed purportedly to a music event for band camp when this actually took place here in Orange County, New York, earlier this afternoon. That's according to a spokesperson from the high school confirming to CNN. But again, this bus that you're looking at right there, just off of Interstate 84, on its side in a wooded area, reportedly carrying multiple students, and now, according to New York State Police, at least one person confirmed dead as a result of this accident. And you see that charter bus on its side there appearing to have careened off the highway and into that embankment here. Of course, there's so many questions, especially more about the people who were injured, and also certainly a cause. But at this point, according to authorities, this is a bus that was transporting a team of students from Farmingdale High School on Long Island, as we continue to gather more, specifically from the school district, which just released a statement saying that they also have been informed that this was a bus that was on its way to Greeley, Pennsylvania, Boris, for band camp when this accident took place.
Difficult to look at some of those live images, especially when you see things like backpacks and the debris that was strewn by in that area. We're looking at where it appears that officials are setting up some kind of triage now. We're going to stay on top of this story. Bull Sandoval, please keep us up to date with the latest that you are learning from officials. Stay tuned to CNN News Central. We're back in just a few minutes.
Want to pay only $40 per month with Sling TV to watch CNN, HGTV, MSNBC, and your other favorite channels? You can stream it all on Sling, all for just $40 per month. Try Sling today at sling.com/watchnow.
A good feeling. Feel it in my bones, gotta shake it out. I'm going harder than before, let me shout. I run around the whole world, chasing that thrill from the bottom to the top, I'm finna knock it out. I'm the talk of the town. I know you're feeling it now. Come on and move to the sound. And keep it going, and turn it up loud. I got a good feeling.
A lot of people need to replace their windows or patio doors, but they put it off because they think it'll be too expensive. Hi, I'm Ann Romer. I'm here with Michael Smith from Renewal by Anderson. You really work with the customers to find affordable solutions.
We do, Ann. We're the replacement window division of Anderson, one of the largest window manufacturers in North America. So we can usually offer our customers larger discounts and better financing than smaller companies or contractors.
Other window companies don't offer your same window and door installation method.
Our installers have installed thousands of windows. Our windows are manufactured to precisely fit your specific window openings. Being custom built also means if you have any beautiful trim that you'd like to keep, we can often install your windows without impacting that trim. You won't get this with most vinyl windows.
And you offer a free window and patio door diagnosis?
We do. We'll come to your home and assess your current windows, show you where you might be losing energy, and take measurements. Then we'll leave you with an exact price quote that's good for an entire year.
So you're not a high-pressure company?
My background is in home remodeling as a carpenter. I've seen every window problem out there. So now I just want to help homeowners make their homes more beautiful and comfortable with the right window.
And your patio doors are really gorgeous.
They are. And they're engineered to easily open and close for years. And with multiple locking points on our patio doors, they provide even greater security.
That is so great to hear, Michael. Thank you.
This month only, buy one window, patio door, or entry door, and get the next one 40% off. That's 40% off with a minimum purchase of 4. Plus, save an extra $200 on your entire project with 0 money down, 0 monthly payments, and 0 interest for 1 year. This offer ends September 30th. For a free appointment with Renewal by Anderson, call 1-800-501-1400. That's 1-800-501-1400.
There are some things that go better together.
Burger and fries, soup and salad.
Like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. With Voya, considering all your financial choices together can help you make smarter decisions.
Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
Does someone who threatens Putin's power ever die unintentionally in Russia?
I don't think so. He just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
Do you think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't.
The Source with Caitlin Collins, tonight at 9.
I started experiencing some slight symptoms of ED. She asked me, do you love me anymore? And so I knew I had to do something about it.
I came across RexMD, and you go online, you answer the medical questions.
The medication is at my house within a couple of days.
My partner thinks that I am a rock star.
And it's literally life-changing.
Because it is effective, I say I'm on a second honeymoon.
Get started today with RexMD.com.
Having diabetes isn't easy. Then I found Splenda Diabetes Care Shakes. So smooth and creamy. 16 grams of protein, 0 sugar. And Splenda Shakes are made by the #1 doctor-recommended sweetener brand.
Find them in the pharmacy aisle.
I had a client once who was a respiratory care nurse during the COVID-19 pandemic. BetterHelp quite literally provided her what she needed at the most pivotal time in her life.
Jose Andres and Family in Spain premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Today on Homefront, Blue Star Welcome Week kicks off this weekend when communities all around the country are helping military families feel more welcome as they get settled into their new cities and towns.
Welcome week was really like I said, it was just a saving grace. We have met some amazing people. We have had some awesome experiences. It's been wonderful. I even volunteer with Blue Star Families now. We're big on giving back, especially with the kids.
So in honor of this big week, we have enlisted the local chapters of the nonprofit Blue Star Families, which, full disclosure, I'm on the board of, to help us with a friendly little CNN News Central competition to see which one of our home or adopted states or kind of territories is doing the best job.
I'm telling you right now, I have zero doubt. I'm fully confident putting all my money.
New York is going to win, right?
Well, I'm the sunshine state of Florida. Florida is winning this competition. We have tons of military families. The 3-time Stanley Cup winning Tampa Bay Lightning are actually rolling out the red carpet for them. Watch this.
Hi, Blue Star Families. We're here with Thunderbird from the Tampa Bay Lightning, here to wish you a warm welcome to Tampa Bay during our Blue Star Welcome Week. Go Bucks!
Hey, military families. This is Zach from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Welcome to the area. Hope to see you guys at a game soon. I'm Nick Purvis of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I want to give a big Tampa welcome to the new military families and veterans in our area. We'd love to see you at a game soon. Hi, I'm Vic Redmond of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and this is Blue Star Welcome Week.
Look, you can try, but you cannot compete with the natural beauty of Florida, the beaches, the weather, the people. It's great for military families. We get to call it home for a few years, and there are so many military bases in Florida, too. Tampa even calls itself Military Bay.
Yeah, okay. On the right there in blue, all-American blue, the best city in the world. New York City happens to be my hometown. Clearly where it's at is part of the Blue Star Welcome Week. Military families get to visit the Statue of Liberty. Who can compete with that? Families and service members have been invited as well to ring the opening bell at the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. A lot happens there. A fair amount of money runs through those places. And you know, in New York, we are tough. We band together. Military families give back, cleaning up the beaches on Staten Island and tackling food insecurity among military families as well.
The food pantry that I'm sitting in today got started by a Coast Guard spouse, Andy Coakley. This program is special because it's a group effort. Blue Star Families nourish the service program in partnership with the Staten Island Giving Circle, local community partners, volunteers with AmeriCorps, Rolling Thunder, have all pulled together their resources in order to help families here stationed at Fort Wadsworth and Fort Hamilton and the Staten Island area supplement their food and make it to the next paycheck.
All right, so, I mean, it's pretty tough competition, I'm going to admit it, you guys, but I really think that the D.C. area is going to win this. The spirit of our nation's capital and the surrounding communities in Maryland and Virginia, they really know how to welcome military families, including in many of our local schools. They go out of their way in extraordinary ways to support military-connected kids. Meet Julia Kim, an 8th grade student ambassador in Northern Virginia who is helping other military kids feel at home.
In total, I think I moved 8 times. Frost has a special program called Masters, and we specialize in people who move here like during the middle of the year or not, directly at the start of the year. And we give special welcomes to them. We help them walk through the schedule, and we have one-on-one sessions with them to help them feel welcome here. I volunteered 2 years to do this because I think that it's important that I can support others who go to the same things as me. I can really empathize with others who are military kids because I've moved around a lot as well.
And also, D.C., I mean, what is cooler than visiting your own commander-in-chief at the White House because military families get to go to the famous White House Easter egg roll? Give me some love. I want some love on my gauge. I want some love on my gauge. Get it up there. Come on, how are we doing? More. I need more.
No.
I need more.
You are the best city in the world.
Come on, bring it up.
Stop it.
Bring it up. Bring it up there. All right, okay, you know what though? I do have a thing. I have a thing in my pocket here that I think really pushes DC over the top. You have to see how our Washington Nationals recognize military families.
Been there for this.
Right? You've heard of the 7th inning stretch? Well, we've got the 4th inning salute to service. Every game, the Nats recognize service members and their families. But look at this. Check out this dual first pitch at the Nats game this past July 4th so that a family member could throw out their first pitch together while they were separated during a deployment.
Oh, wow.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Colonel Matt Clausen, throwing out the first pitch for the Nationals game from Alayuddin Air Base, Qatar.
Great pitch.
I mean, complete with an appearance in Qatar from Screech, the mascot, as Colonel Clausen's family. By the way, and we have video of this, they were back in Nats Park in D.C., and his sons, Brady, Colby, and Bryce, were throwing out the first pitch.
That's very cool.
That's awesome.
Now, Screech is a bit of a scary mascot at his point. I'd say Mr. Met is better.
All right, who's
I
winning?
don't know what that.
Come on.
There we go.
Oh, what?
Finally.
No, come on.
Shining as it should.
Do it.
Oh,
Yes!
no.
There, I clinched
It's
it.
rigged.
This is Rihanna bias,
It
I
might
think.
be rigged. Not good.
At least she admits it.
It didn't have to be third. Come on.
First in our hearts. But welcome, Blue Star families, and we'll be right back.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
Sunday on The Whole Story. Why are these people waiting for the return of JFK?
You don't believe JFK is dead?
No. Billy O'Sullivan goes down the rabbit hole to understand the followers of this man.
Why do you think people like you so much?
He really got to the point where he believed that he was going to save people somehow.
And the conspiracy theory that's tearing families apart.
It's true torture. No one should know this pain.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Join me on my perfect feel-good vacation adventure in Penticton, BC. That might leave a mark. And I did it all fuel-free. Almost. Wow, this is gorgeous.
I have a structured settlement and I need cash now. Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I have an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I'm Arlette Saenz at the White House, and this is CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We start this hour of CNN News Central with some breaking news out of Orange County, New York. We're getting new information about a deadly high school bus crash. We now know that at least 45 people were hurt when this bus carrying a high school band camp overturned.
This is obviously a very serious situation that we are monitoring. We have CNN's Polo Sandoval back with us watching this. Polo, what can you tell us?
Hey guys, that 45 figure coming from the local fire department saying that at least 45 individuals that were severely injured, in addition to one person confirmed dead. And we now know, according to officials, that this bus was actually transporting a large group of students from Long Island, specifically coming from Farmingdale High School. According to that school district, it tells CNN that those students were on their way to band camp in Pennsylvania when just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, their bus crashed. And these aerial pictures give you a dramatic look at the what eventually took place there. You see that bus on its side in a wooded area just off of Interstate 84, I believe. Here's what we understand right now. Not only that those students were coming from Farmingdale High School, but they were heading to Greeley, Pennsylvania, which is typically about a 140-mile drive, when at one point that bus crashed, again, killing one person and injuring at least 45, according to local fire officials. The school district releasing a statement saying, quote, that they were informed that there had been an accident with Bus 1 en route to Greeley, Pennsylvania for band camp. Police and emergency responders on the scene, as well as district administration. The school district saying that they will be providing additional information as it becomes available. Obviously, there's still many questions here, including, of course, the cause of this accident, but also the severity of those individuals that were injured when this bus ended on its side there just off of the interstate. The result certainly is a massive scene that is still very active right now. In fact, a portion of Interstate 84, according to authorities, remains closed as authorities continue to work that scene. Guys.
So we are taking a live look at the scene, and as you can see, it appears that I-84, looks like we lost that there, but for a moment it appeared that authorities were setting up some kind of a triage site on I-84. Polo, please stay with us, because from our vantage point right now, as we look at these live images from WABC, who's over the scene, it looks like authorities are now combing that area for evidence. You mentioned there were 45 people hurt, at least one dead. Do we have any other information from officials about who else might have been on board? Was this exclusively the high school band that was headed to camp that was on this bus?
Right, Morris. We understand that this was a bus that had been chartered for use to transport these students, and when you look at the statement that was released by the district, you see this was, they refer to this as bus number 1. We don't know if it was part of a fleet that the school system actually kept for use to transport students, or if this was a charter company. This is all, again, these are all questions that we're trying to answer right now. But as you point out in these pictures, you see authorities on the ground there, almost canvassing the area, making sure that they don't miss anything, and most importantly, anyone. This was a bus that was potentially transporting dozens of individuals, so authorities certainly want to make sure that anybody who needs help, that needs medical attention, is getting that. And then, of course, also gathering evidence as they try to piece a case together to try to find out exactly what led to this crash, now fatal crash, of a bus that was transporting these students from Long Island headed to band camp.
Do we know anything about where they are being transported in terms of hospitals? And you also do make a very good point there, I think, that we can see this ravine, this area where the bus is. It's not just grass as it is on that hill. There's also some pretty large bushes. And when you're talking about a crash of this magnitude, and we're talking about a bus where obviously you would expect that people may not be wearing seatbelts, there's going to be concern that some people and certainly some things will be ejected from the bus. And so they are going through over this large area of the ground there to make sure. Do we know anything, Polo, about where they're transporting people?
Well, we know that there are multiple area hospitals where many of the injured will potentially be taken. We do know that some people are going to have to be evacuated from the zone there. That certainly might speak to the severity of their injuries. But in terms of some of those who survived and potentially may not need medical attention, of course, what we have seen in the past is usually a form of reunification center that will be prepared so that parents can get their children there that have been medically cleared. We don't know yet if that's already been done. It certainly would not be surprising if we get to that point, as the parents of these children, again, 45 people who were injured aboard that bus that was carrying students. As you can imagine, these parents will be desperate for answers and desperate to be reunited with their children. But again, as of this point, looking through some of our editorial, we do not know exactly where that is happening right now. The authorities are certainly, specifically the school district, is taking those steps to make sure that parents are informed and they can be see their children again.
Yeah, and Polo, if you could, let's talk about the geographical context here. Orange County is not far from Manhattan, and I believe your reporting was that this was a high school that was located on Long Island.
Right, so these were students from Farmingdale High School on Long Island. They were, according to the school district, they were heading to Greeley, Pennsylvania. So it's about a 140-mile drive that typically they would be making if they actually started from their school. So this would have happened well beyond New York City, and when you look at the geography there, it is certainly not as populated as perhaps you would find in New York City. So perhaps that may have led to a challenge there for authorities. But no, it is certainly a heavily wooded area there that authorities have to comb right now as they try to get to the bottom of what actually led to this crash. Boris, Brianna?
Again, at least one person dead, 45 others hurt in a bus crash in Orange County, New York. Polo will let you go and get more information for us. We'll, of course, make sure to keep you updated with the very latest in that situation.
We see them using a drone. We can see a small drone. We see them in a row canvassing the area, raising questions about, is someone missing? Is something important missing? And obviously those parents are going to have major questions about that.
No doubt about that. Still, we are also focusing on other major news in the nation's capital. In just a few moments, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is going to arrive at the White House to meet with President Biden. He's going to be there just a few hours after additional Russian strikes killed Ukrainian civilians. These are new strikes as of today, and Zelensky is now pleading with the West for more help. He will get some of it, at least, from President Biden, at least symbolically, because Biden will walk him through a new military aid package. But of course, there are major challenges ahead for Ukraine's president.
Yeah, when he met with lawmakers earlier today, Zelensky had a tougher sell. More and more Republicans are trying to block increased aid to Ukraine. So Zelensky put it bluntly. He said, you give money, we give lives. We'll see, though, if that is going to convince anyone there. We're covering this across Washington. We're covering this inside Ukraine. Let's start with CNN's Kayla Tausche at the White House. Kayla, these two leaders have met several times by now. They are largely on the same page when it comes to countering Russia. What are we expecting from this meeting?
They are largely on the same page, Brianna, and we're expecting another show of force from Washington, at least from this side of Pennsylvania Avenue. We can see the Honor Guard has been assembling here on the driveway at the South Portico, where we expect President Zelensky to arrive in just a few minutes. It is the third time that Zelensky has visited the White House in person, the sixth time that he and President Biden have met. And this afternoon is going to follow a pretty specific program. Biden is going to hold a bilateral with Zelensky. He's going to be introducing the Ukrainian president to a newly appointed U.S. diplomat, Penny Pritzker, who's a known entity to many in the U.S., and she's going to be leading the rebuilding and recovery inside Ukraine. Her job is essentially going to be to connect private sector companies to the rebuilding effort to try to generate investment. But of course, that can't happen until there's something to rebuild, until there is essentially a victory for Ukraine. And that is what Zelensky is here to try to secure. President Biden is going to be holding a meeting with his cabinet where they're going to be looking for battlefield intelligence from Zelensky about how the counteroffensive is going, how much more military assistance and aid they will need. President Biden set to announce $325 million from an existing drawdown, but of course, tens of billions of dollars more will be needed this year.
Kayla, please stand by as we await Zelensky's arrival at the White House. Let's get over to Capitol Hill now with CNN's Lauren Fox. Lauren, a range of viewpoints today on the issue of Ukraine aid that we've heard from lawmakers. Did President Zelensky change any minds?
Yeah, a range, Boris, and a deep division between Republican leaders in the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate. So far, it is not clear that Zelensky changed any minds in his meetings, especially when it comes to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He has been circumspect about putting more Ukraine funding on the floor of the House of Representatives. And after his meeting with Zelensky, I pressed him repeatedly on whether or not he would commit to putting $24 billion in a supplemental request from the White House on the floor of the House before the end of the year. And repeatedly, McCarthy dodged the question, saying that there were issues and priorities when it came to the U.S.'s spending that needed to be dealt with first. So a huge question right now of whether or not McCarthy will put that money on the floor of the House. And this is coming as McCarthy is trying to find a way forward with his Republican conference to avert a government shutdown. It also comes as House Republicans are expected to leave for the weekend, even though they were saying that they were going to work through the weekend. So far, no indication that any minds, or at least the minds that matter, were changed in that room. Boris?
It's so stunning, I think, Lauren, to look at the visuals that we see coming off of the Hill and the difference between the Senate and the House, where you have Mitch McConnell, walking side by side with the Senate Majority Leader and President Zelensky trying to present this unified front of Democrats and Republicans supporting Ukraine. And then on the flip side, on the House, you have Speaker McCarthy will not be seen in public with President Zelensky because of the political peril that it puts him in. It's such a far cry from the Republican Party, you know, just even a few years ago.
Yeah, it is a far cry, and it's a far cry from what Zelensky received when he came to the Capitol last year, when House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was still in charge, and he spoke before a joint meeting of Congress, and he was sort of met with this sea of yellow and blue as lawmakers were standing, giving him an ovation, and arguing that more money for Ukraine was not only critical for that country, but also for the future of the United States. It's a very, very different reception that he received in the House today, and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is being careful because those on his right flank have openly mocked the support for Ukraine. You had Matt Gaetz earlier this week tweeting a picture of McCarthy standing with his pin with the Ukraine flag in yellow and blue pocket square. And Matt Gaetz tweeted, "How does this make you feel?" Basically arguing that this is probably going to enrage some on the far right. So that is why House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has been so careful, Brianna.
Lauren, please stand by. We do want to get you the view from Ukraine, as we've been alerted that President Zelensky will get to the White House in just a few moments. CNN's Fred Plykin is on the ground there for us. Fred, bring us up to speed on the latest series of Russian attacks there.
Yeah, a huge barrage of aerial attacks that happened in the earlier morning hours of today. And if you look at some of the things that happened, certainly the timing does seem quite conspicuous, Boris, as it was just as President Volodymyr Zelensky was arriving in Washington that the Russians unleashed this aerial attack. Now, they used ballistic missiles, but first and foremost, they also used cruise missiles as well. And some of the numbers are pretty staggering. The Ukrainians say that the Russians used 10 nuclear-capable strategic bombers that took off from a base in the west of Russia and then launched 43 cruise missiles at the territory of Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainians do say that thanks to some of the air defense systems that they've already received from the west, they were able to take most of those missiles down, but some of them did come through and they did cause a lot of damage. There were 5 people who were killed in the town of Kherson. There was another incident that took place in a town called Cherkasy, which is in the center of Ukraine, where a hotel was hit. A lot of people were injured there. But the Ukrainians also say what really concerns them is that there was a massive attack and a lot of hits on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. And if we look back throughout the course of last winter, pretty much all of last fall, winter, and also into the spring, the Russians had unleashed a giant aerial campaign against Ukraine's energy infrastructure, essentially trying to freeze the Ukrainians into submission. And they certainly fear that what we're seeing right now could be the start of something like that again. The Ukrainians say there were massive power outages in large parts of the west and the center of the country, and some of those still continue. There are works in progress to try and restore the power. Ukraine's president, of course, who we're about to see, is pleading for more air defense weapons to help the Ukrainians better defend themselves than what we've been seeing here in the past couple of hours, guys.
Yeah, so far, not getting them, even though that's very much on the table, Fred. Fred, thank you so much. I want to head back to the White House where Kayla Tausche is. To Fred's point there, Kayla, these long-range weapons, these ATACMS that have been discussed so much, you heard Zelensky as he came to the Hill, as he's been here in Washington, he is saying that Ukraine is not going to cede territory. In fact, they want to take Crimea back, and long-range weapons are critical for that. But at this point so far, the U.S. is not delivering on that. Can you explain to us why that is? Is it just logistical? Is it also a political consideration?
Well, Brianna, the administration has not denied that these capabilities would be helpful in Ukraine's defense of its country and of some of those territories that you just mentioned. But what I've learned through my reporting is that the U.S. military has briefed the White House that what Ukraine needs most right now to be successful in the counteroffensive are vehicles, are mine-clearing equipment, are the types of aid that will help them breach Russian defenses on the ground, and that they want to essentially prioritize that type of weaponry instead of, or perhaps in addition to, in the future, sending those ATACMS. John Kirby, the spokesman for the NSC, has said that the review by government agencies on whether to send those deep strike missiles is still underway, that no decision has been made, but that it remains on the table. But for now, there is a belief within the administration, based on briefings from the U.S. military, that that is not what is most pressing at this exact moment in time.
Kayla, please stand by. We understand President Zelensky is set to arrive at the White House within minutes. We will obviously bring that to you live. We want to expand the conversation now with CNN national security analyst Beth Sanner. So Beth, what are you going to be watching for in this meeting at the White House?
You know, we're not going to know too much about it except what they tell us afterward. There's not going to be a big long press conference or anything like that. This is very much inside.
I heard that President Zelensky made a quote. I heard him say something true. You give us money, we give you lives. That's what we can do. You give us money, we give life. We give our lives. You give us money, we give our lives. You give us money and weapons, we put our lives on the line and die for you. Lives on the line, we're dying for you. We're dying, putting our lives on the line for the sake of democracy and the protection and freedom of sovereign countries. You know, Putin will start to carve up other countries after he finishes with us. If he gets his way, he's an Adolf Hitler in every way. He wants to make us capitulate, perform ethnic cleansing, banish us from the world, any memory of us. Adolf Hitler in the flesh, personified, oh yes, as Putin. Putin, Adolf Putin. Putin, the next Adolf Hitler of our time. When are you going to stand up to him, world? Come on now. Come on now. Zelensky is right. Come on now. Come on now. Zelensky is right. You give us money, but we give our lives.
Now the question of how that aid is scheduled is a big part of the negotiations underway right now on Capitol Hill, the spending fight, whether it should be part of a bigger spending package or its own individual bill. Beth, I want to ask you about one of the claims from Republicans that are hesitant to send more aid to Ukraine, one of them being Congressman Mike Walz of Florida. He's talked about this perception that's plaguing the Ukrainian leadership regarding corruption. And recently, Volodymyr Zelensky fired many of his deputy defense ministers. How big a part is dispelling the notion, the reputation that some of the top leadership in Ukraine has for corruption, a part of Zelensky's effort here?
I think it's important in terms of the Pentagon putting in place, and they're making steps now in terms of appointing an IG or IG-like person that will oversee that aid. There's no evidence of corruption involving U.S. armaments, but there is evidence of some malfeasance from ministers at different levels regarding purchases of food and things like that. Zelensky's taken a very hard line and strong stand on this because it's really key to EU membership. They have to deal with these things to move forward with that. The Ukrainian people, 77% of them hold Zelensky responsible for ongoing corruption in Ukraine. They want change. Zelensky wants change. There will be change, but not always at the pace that I think all of us want, because it's like trying to, fix the airplane while it's in flight. They're at war, so it adds more problems.
Yeah, certainly. Kayla Tausche, to you, at the White House, there is what we're hearing from some Republicans who are dismayed by this degree of aid going to Ukraine, or they don't want to be on the hook for more, as they anticipate after the there being more, there being even more. Is there any sense from the White House that they need to prepare Zelensky for the fact that this aid is finite and that at a certain point he has to make a decision, that there is a deadline in a way for Ukraine's progress?
Well, Brianna, I think every time that conversation comes up, the White House, the U.S., and Ukraine are just dealing with a new set of facts based on where the country is in the conflict at that moment in time. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor to that end, told reporters today that the $24 billion request that the White House has made essentially would sustain the war from the end of September, the end of the government's fiscal year, through the end of the calendar year, but that the administration has already begun conversations with Congress to talk about what would be needed after that and what the U.S. government's assessment is about how much aid Ukraine could need to sustain the war beyond the end of this year. And so some of those conversations are already happening, but there's also an acknowledgement that war is unpredictable and they don't know exactly what the state of play on the ground will be at that time and what Ukraine's needs will be, and that conversation will have to evolve, even as it's one that they're trying to anticipate right now.
I want to go back to Fred Pleiken, who's in Zaporizhia for us, because something struck me about what Beth was noting a moment ago regarding not just aid from the United States, but how aid from the United States could impact aid coming from others. And there was big news today, Fred, about Poland and its decision on supplying arms to Ukraine. Yeah. Bring us up to speed with that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Poland, which was always one of the staunchest allies, maybe the staunchest ally, aside from the United States, of the Ukrainians, even before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, today announced that they were going to completely stop giving weapons to the Ukrainians, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, they did say that they were going to continue to deliver the weapons that they had already pledged, and the Ukrainians also have bought some weapons in Poland as well, and that those were going to be delivered as well. But aside from that, for now, there is going to be none of that going on. A lot of that goes back to a dispute between the Poles and the Ukrainians over grain exports, which the Poles have stopped. The Ukrainians then filed a lawsuit at the World Trade Organization, so there was sort of a spat going on between these two countries. One of the other things, Boris, we also have to point out is that Poland is right before a very crucial election for the governing party there, and that's certainly something that some people believe could also play a role as well. But of course, in the end, this is a very staunch ally, and one that the U.S. and that President Biden have hailed as being instrumental in helping the Ukrainians, also taking in a lot of refugees from Ukraine, essentially saying they are going to cut off their weapon supplies to Ukraine. Of course, that's also something that can have a chilling effect on other countries that are providing support as well. And I think the U.S., of course, plays an oversized role in all of that. There are a lot of European countries who have taken steps to provide additional weapons to Ukraine simply because the U.S. has done so, and who have said that the precondition for them giving additional weapons to Ukraine is that the United States does so as well. The big case in point is that main battle tanks, where the Germans, when we're talking about Leopard 2 main battle tanks from Germany, which a lot of countries here in Europe have, going to Ukraine, the Germans went down and said, look, we're going to do this if the U.S. gives Abrams main battle tanks as well. And it took that pledge from President Biden for those Abrams main battle tanks for the Germans then to say, okay, we are going to allow German and European main battle tanks to go into Ukraine as well. The same also goes for multiple rocket launching systems. So of course, if the U.S. curbs its support, cuts its support, that definitely could have a chilling effect on other nations, certainly European nations, giving weapons to the Ukrainians. And it is definitely something that the Ukrainians are aware of as well. We can see that as President Zelensky has been in the U.S., certainly saw those meetings today, where again and again and again, and also in that interview with our own Wolf Blitzer said the Ukrainians extremely grateful for the help that they're getting from the United States, but they certainly do need a lot more of it to stay in the fight. And I think one of the things that we need to mention in that as well, the Ukrainians, from what we're seeing, and we've been on the southern front here a lot over the past couple of days, they say there are immediate needs that they have, and some of that is really basic stuff. A lot of artillery ammo that they need, HIMARS ammo simply to stay in the fight on the battlefield. Also some of those vehicles that Kayla was talking about, mine clearing, because they are having to deal with those massive minefields here in the south. And then ATACMS missiles, as they put it, for the longer-term stuff that hit the Russian supply lines. But we do also see that the Ukrainians have indeed, in the past couple of weeks, the past couple of months, really increased their own capabilities as long-distance strikes as well. We saw them hit targets, for instance, in Moscow with the big drone fleet that they've built up. We've seen them hit, for instance, today, a Russian, they claim, a Russian airfield in Crimea using a homemade Ukrainian missile called the Neptune that they say they used in that. So they do have longer distance capabilities, certainly the Ukrainians, but they also say they do need a lot of artillery ammo. They need a lot more vehicles to stay here in the fight, and certainly every nation that says that it's going to stop providing them, especially a key one like Poland, which has a border with Ukraine and has done so much so far. That really is a pretty big blow, and it's something that the Ukrainians have noticed, and they certainly are trying to come to some sort of agreement with the Poles to see that that goes on again. That's why this visit is so very important for Volodymyr Zelensky, and that's why we've seen him go around, go to Congress, meet the members of Congress there, go to Capitol Hill, and now also with President Biden to try to keep that aid going. The Ukrainians understand that for their survival on the battlefield, and certainly if they want to keep their counteroffensive going, which has been slow so far, but when we're on the front lines, you do see that the morale of many of the soldiers still remains very high, because they say right now they are the ones that have the momentum on the side. They are the ones who are taking the initiative. It's not them defending against the Russians, it's the Russians defending against them, and that's certainly something where they say that in itself is already worth a lot. But of course, many people here believe that this war is going to go on for a very long time, and certainly the Ukrainians need the U.S. to stay in the fight and just keep supporting them if they are going to have a chance to pull off larger territorial gains, winning back large parts of their own territory, guys.
When you talk to people, Fred, in Ukraine, do they understand the possibility of, obviously they're confronting this very real situation with Poland. They need ammo, and Poland is now saying, hey, we're only going to give you the ammo that we had promised before we made this decision to stop shipments. So that's obviously very real. Are they considering in Ukraine that they have to come up with a plan for what happens if that isn't just a Poland issue, if that becomes a U.S. issue, if, Donald Trump were to be elected president? Certainly that is something that could really turn off the spigot. These are things that they must be considering, the political realities that would affect the realities for them on the battlefield.
The realities for them on the battlefield, and quite frankly, existential realities for them. And of course, when we speak to soldiers on the ground here, on the front lines, and also your average everyday Ukrainians that we meet on the streets here as well, and that we deal with as we're on the ground here, of course, it's something that's of grave concern to them. There are a lot of people who are quite concerned about the next presidential election and what could happen after that presidential election. At the same time, they also say that for them, this is an existential fight, and it is a fight that is going to continue. They say, and I spoke to a soldier actually today about this, they say, look, they basically have no other choice than to go on the battlefield. He said, I don't want to go to war. I don't want to be at war. In fact, there's nothing I want to do less. But they say that right now, for them, there simply is no other choice. For their own future, for the future of their children, a lot of them say as well. So they understand that they need to figure out a way to keep weapons flowing into this country and to keep countries to supply them with weapons going forward. The U.S., of course, by far is their most important ally in doing that. And I think that's why you're seeing the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky make such a big effort. But yeah, they do understand that there could be a point where they're going to have to either depend on others or depend on themselves. And I think you are seeing them also in the long term trying to build up some of those capabilities. There are some Western arms companies that are already talking about moving manufacturing, or at least moving some of the repair of weapons here onto Ukrainian territory, of course with all the risks that it encompasses as well. There are also some European companies who are also talking about longer term aid for Ukraine. But the Ukrainians certainly do understand that in the end, they are very dependent on the goodwill of countries like the United States, and certainly the United States also seeing themselves in this fight and seeing themselves, or seeing this as a very important issue to the United States, a fundamental issue to the United States. And that's what we can see, not just President Zelensky making that point, but an array of other Ukrainian politicians and certainly Ukrainian military leaders. If you look at, for instance, at the head of the Ukrainian general staff, making that point again and again, that they are very thankful for the weapons they are getting. They certainly are going to need a lot more of them, and they certainly are going to need it most probably for a long period of time. I think one of the things know, that we've also seen over the past couple of weeks, the past couple of months, is that the Ukrainians are saying with the counteroffensive, the way it's going right now, it is something that could take a long period of time, certainly for larger territorial gains to take hold. They do have a bit of momentum going on right now on the battlefield, but they are still pretty far away from, for instance, cutting off Crimea, the land route to Crimea from the Russians, for instance, making a major breakthrough in the east of the country as well. So for them, they know it's going to be tough. The people here, quite frankly, are extremely motivated. They are saying, look, they don't want to give up any of their territory. They certainly don't want to have some sort of negotiated solution with the Russians where they give up territory, like, for instance, Crimea. That is something that right now, in public opinion here in this country, simply is not in the cards. But of course, they also know that all of that, making all of that happen, or trying to make all of that happen, is very much also in the hands of countries like the U.S. and their will to continue to supply Ukraine with the weapons that, of course, are extremely sophisticated, on the other hand, also extremely expensive.
Fred, please stand by. We do want to be fully transparent with our viewers. We've been told now twice that we were getting a 2-minute warning to the arrival of President Zelensky at the White House. He was supposed to arrive at 3 and then 3:15, and now it's 3:30. We're told that his car is very close, and there you see the doors opening on the south lawn of the White House. There is President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden. We'll listen in as President Zelensky of Ukraine arrives at the White House at a critical time during his war, defending his country against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There's not much to listen to but the birds right now on the south lawn of the White House. We were told the car was arriving. We're going to fill the space until it does. Something notable to me, Beth Sanner, if you're still with us, is the question of what victory looks like in Crimea. And I think it's a question that a lot of House Republicans certainly have. Let's go ahead and pause now as the car arrives at the White House carrying Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's listen.
And there you have it, President Volodymyr Zelensky and his wife, Olena Zelenska, going inside of the White House with the president and the First Lady for a critical meeting, as he has a really tough sell here in Washington. A lot of Republicans whose support for the war in Ukraine and American funding for it has waned. Certainly he has an ally in President Biden, but he has a lot of other people to win over.
And we should point out, a lot of House Republicans are actually in line with public polling.
Right.
The majority of Americans are critical of sending more aid to Ukraine. President Zelensky was asked on the South Lawn, how important is this meeting? He said, quote, extremely important. We'll, of course, keep tracking all the latest details from Zelensky's visit to the White House, and we'll get you updated as soon as we get more information from inside. Stay with CNN News Central. We're back in just a few minutes.
Are you still using your hands when you put on your shoes? Step into the future like I did with new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. The secret is slip-ins have an invisible built-in shoehorn, so your foot slides into place without bending down or touching my shoes. Try Skechers slip-ins.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, and I saved hundreds. With the money I saved, I started a dog walking business. Oh!
If Republicans withhold funding for Ukraine, when Russia comes to invade the USA, will your sons and daughters die? A song by Paul Beckman, Paul Rainbow Song, also the new and first leader of humankind in the free world. Created September 21st, 2023. I say, hey, here's a question for you, all you Republicans who want to withhold funding from Ukraine. By doing that, you're going to let Russia invade and take over Ukraine. They won't have enough money and enough weapons to stop Russia and Putin. Then he'll be aiming on his sights to take over more countries and more and more and more and more, with the rogue nations of the world helping him. So let me ask you this question, Republicans. When Putin comes attacking the USA, how many of your sons and daughters are going to die? I ask you, how many of your sons and daughters, all you Republicans, are going to die when Putin comes attacking the USA because you withheld funding this fateful day from Ukraine? Instead of standing up to Putin, standing up to Adolf Hitler in our century, the new Adolf Hitler. Putin and his Russia, equivalent to World War II Germany of today. Well, Republicans, when Putin comes attacking the USA after you threw Ukraine to the dogs so they could be carved up and ethnic cleansed, you Republicans of the USA, how many of your own sons and daughters are gonna die when they're gonna have to fight? I ask you that question, Republicans, because you withheld funding today for Ukraine. Got that? You hear that? Consider that. Consider that. Republicans, how many of your own daughters and sons are gonna die when Putin and Russia come attacking the USA with their other rogue nation allies like North Korea, Iran, China, and perhaps others. When they come attacking the USA, Russia attacking the USA because you withheld funds from Ukraine. And all you had to do was give money while the people in Ukraine give their lives. And you couldn't even do that. Cowards. Republicans.